Welcome to Wine with HR. I'm Jules.
Hey there, I'm Trish.
Lawyers turned HR professionals. Through our company, Monarch Endeavors, we guide employers through their oh shit moments with their employees.
In this podcast, we will discuss some of the most common and commonly frustrating HR problems while enjoying our favorite adult beverage, wine.
So sit back, grab a glass if you choose, and join us as we think about and drink about all things HR. Welcome to this episode of Wine. Retention is still a challenge for many employers, and that doesn't appear to be changing anytime soon. In this episode, we're going to talk about some traditionally overlooked candidate pools that may be a good resource for all of you out there. But first, we got to talk about the WINEs. So Trish, what are you drinking?
Well, I tried to be creative today. I need to explain to our listeners, I really wanted to do something different. I wanted to follow Julie and do some really fancy Italian wine, and it didn't work. So my local grocer couldn't do it, and but I'm not terribly upset about it because I have one of my favorites, which, as you know, is the Chateau Saint Michel. Their Cabernet. I was even gonna go for something a little more because we're having a little bit of a heat wave, which is nice. I have to say, no one would believe it, but I'm actually very excited for fall. So,
amen.
I am. I'm never so excited for fall, but I wasn't quite ready to make that transition into reds yet. And it happened. I have my Chateau Saint Michel and I am a happy girl. So for those of you who have not heard me review this one, which is absolutely shocking, rich with red fruit flavor, the complexity and structure of this Cabernet remains delectable at every sip, especially when paired with beef, game, or I can't even read that word. Oh, burgers. The word is burgers. I'm like, Bruges? Burgess? What is this word? It's burgers. So there you go.
Oh, the eyesight after 40 is just not to be messed with.
That is with glasses. Can we discuss that? That is, I have my readers on.
Hilarious. The struggle is real. I'm there.
Truly
I'm
real.
There too.
So what about you?
Okay, well, so if people were listening last episode, I'm drinking the same thing because we're taping 2 in a row.
If you didn't listen to the last episode, go back and listen because it was magical.
It was magical. A magical episode. I don't think, however, that I actually said the name of the wine in the last episode. I can at least correct that here. So,
very good.
I am drinking a South African Sauvignon Blanc called Excelsior.
Yeah, no, you didn't say the title.
I did not. I know I didn't. Yes. So it's a 2023 from South Africa, from the DeWitt family. They've been making this wine for 5 generations, and it has notes of fig and grass and tropical fruit. I still cannot taste the fig, but the grass you can smell, and it's not a overwhelming taste, so it's not like you're chomping on freshly mowed lawn, but it's very slight. But the fresh fruit flavors are very nice. It's less zippy than your typical New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. I am enjoying it, as you can probably already tell, in my very large wine glass that says, let's wine about it. So,
Constance, I would like to have one of those glasses, please. Not to be asking for something, but this is a pretty amazing glass.
It is. All right. So now that we've discussed the beverage portion of our episode, let's talk about the WHINE. So Trish,
Can I start with stats?
get us started with some stats. Yes. Yes.
All right, y'all. You know I do love my stats. So we're going to start with this one first. Approximately 27% of U.S. workers quit their job in 2023. Now, I'm saying that all excited, but this is not a good thing.
That's why it's the WHINE.
Exactly. It cost you as employers nearly $1 trillion to replace them. That's a T. Trillion. Turnover, by the way. Well, I think people need to make sure that they heard that right.
Yes,
Turnover
agreed.
is expected to increase as labor market experts are predicting, oh, yeah, you thought the great resignation was over? Nope. This is 2.0, y'all. It is hitting us. Hey, Julie.
Yeah.
Before I move on with our next stat, did you know that there's something called the national quit rate?
I did not. No.
No. This is, I imagine that most of our listeners out there did not know that either. But here's something really crazy about it. You didn't know it existed, and it has also increased 37% since 2014.
That doesn't seem good.
No, it is not. The Work Institute, we've talked about a couple of their studies in the past and on a couple of our episodes. Their analysis of 21,000 exit interviews across 175 companies back in 2023 revealed that the top 3 reasons employees gave for quitting were, hey, Julie, you want to take a quick guess?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm guessing the number one reason was lack of career opportunities.
That is exactly right. And as a matter of fact, we've talked about that in several of our episodes. So
Yes.
Career development issues have been most cited for leaving an employer every single year since the Work Institute began tracking turnover since 2010. So you hit it right on. The second one would be health and family issues. And the third is that work-life imbalance. Every one of you who has been listening to the show for a while, you know how important we believe work-life balance is. Well, let me tell you, if you thought that we were like blowing smoke or that we were just silly, this goes to show you that it's not just us. We're actually in touch with what is going on out there. That work-life imbalance is a big one. And then real quick, according to SHRM's 2024 Talent Trends Report, more than 3 out of 4 organizations had difficulty recruiting full-time positions in 2023, and nearly half had trouble retaining those full-time employees.
Yeah. So now that you want to drown yourself in your bottle of wine or whatever you're drinking.
Notice she said bottle, not glass.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or if you have my glass, you can apparently fit an entire bottle in it. So you could drown yourself in the glass, but hey, whatever. Not necessarily a bad way to go. Anyway, you may be really depressed by now, but that's why you've got us to help you see the bright side. So before we dive into the overlooked candidate pools, I want to remind you of a couple of things. In episode 7, we talked a lot about how to develop your employees. So given the stats that Trish just mentioned, you may want to go back and listen to that episode, because polling from your internal pool of candidates is like, they're already sitting there and waiting. They already like your company. They're already doing the work. They know the culture. It's a great thing if you can do it. So go back and listen to episode 7. Also, in episode 6 and 17, we talked about blended workforces and how employers can make use of freelancers, contract workers, and part-time workers. So if you need more ideas, again, go back, check out those episodes, recheck out those episodes, but we're not going to go into a lot of detail about that today. Today, we are focusing on overlooked candidate pools. So, who are we talking about? We are talking about individuals with disabilities, criminal histories, military spouses and veterans, people that are neurodivergent, youth ages 16 to 24, and retirees. And so, again, these are people that we tend to overlook that we think aren't really out in the workforce, but they could be a really useful pool of candidates for you. So, according to SHRM, only 23% of employers seek out candidates from these talent pools. And that's why we want to bring them to your attention and tell you some of the advantages that these types of workers can bring, and also some things you need to think about if you want to reach out to these groups. So, Trish, I'm going to throw it back over to you to get us started.
Well, the first thing I'm going to do, Jules, is rewind even further than you did and remind people about season 1, episode 11. We did trends in HR. And at that point, we talked about skill-based hiring.
Yes.
So I would remind people to go back to that episode too. Think about skill-based hiring and think about how that will apply to all of the information we are about to give you.
People, we have been imparting knowledge for 2 seasons now, and there's a lot of it out there. Cheers to us!
Cheers. And cheers to you for continuing to support us.
Yes.
We appreciate each and every one of you.
Yes. Cheers to you.
All right. Anyone who's taken my classes knows that I always have to stand up on my soapbox and talk about criminal history. I think we live in an absolutely amazing country, but there are a lot of issues that come along with being in this country. And one of those is the fact that when it comes to our criminal justice system, it is punitive, right? Versus, helping someone to try to grow and become better. So 1/3 of our population has a criminal history. I want to start there. So that, for some of you, may automatically take 1/3 of our population out from your candidate pool. I challenge you on that. I absolutely challenge you on that. For one thing, you may actually be running afoul of the EEOC, right? Let's talk about the fact that, they have this beautiful 3-part test that's out there that tells us, hey, you need to consider the nature and the gravity of the offense compared to that job that they are seeking. So I would start there as just kind of a reminder to everyone that 1/3 of the population has that. Maybe you ought to say, oh, gee, is this really relevant? The second thing is, I do believe in second chance opportunities. I believe that everyone has a chance to grow and improve and learn and become better. And so I would remind people that a lot of people who are incarcerated, they do thankfully get an opportunity to complete their education while they are incarcerated. So we're giving them this opportunity inside, but that's not enough. We need to make sure that once they get outside, we're continuing to give them these opportunities and allowing them to be hired in these jobs where they are qualified and where it, of course, is not directly related to that position. Obviously, I am not telling you to hire someone who's been, convicted of a crime of embezzlement or forgery to be your new chief financial officer, right? That's probably not a good idea. Right?
Yes.
But these individuals, they have a lot to give society. We don't want to penalize them for mistakes that they have made. They've learned all of these valuable job skills, and a lot of times they are willing to take on roles that are more traditionally hard to fill. So I challenge all of you out there who are listening to think about, okay, what are some of the jobs that we have that are hard to fill? What are the jobs that we have that a lot of people don't want? What are the jobs that we have that maybe are odd hours or these environments that maybe some people don't want? Well, have you ever thought about looking at someone who has this kind of a criminal history? Now, again, I'm not saying that you're going to go out and hire every single person who has a criminal background. You want to look at the relationship, you want to look at the person, and you want to make an individual assessment. Have a conversation with the person, see how they've grown, but really don't just discount someone because of this past. A little bit impassioned, Julie. What do you think?
Yes, no. Well, I agree, especially because nowadays with the opioid epidemic and marijuana still being illegal on a federal level, there are a lot of people who have criminal histories who have not engaged in any sort of violent crime, who may have misdemeanors, and who may be, as you pointed out, very well qualified for a particular position. Maybe they've just fallen on hard times or they're whatever's going on. Our point in bringing up these candidate pools is that, number one, you shouldn't just discount people because they fall into one of these groups. And two, these groups may actually be really valuable to you because they may fit certain niches that you need to fill. So as Trisha pointed out, a lot of times people who have been incarcerated will fill positions that are typically otherwise hard to fill. So if you do have those types of hard to fill positions, it's worth looking into whether you could be part of a prison release program or whether you could start to market your recruiting efforts toward people who have recently have served their sentence and have been paroled or have been completed their sentence and have been freed. So just something to think about. I want to talk about individuals with disabilities.
Oh, hey, Jules.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But before we go there, can I just direct people to the SHRM magazine?
Yes.
Okay, because I want people to understand, for some reason, Julie and I seem to be on the same wavelength as SHRM. Every time we start to come up with these wonderful ideas about where we want to go, SHRM puts out this amazing article or magazine, and we're like, yes, that's exactly what we're talking about. So I do want to point people to the most recent SHRM HR Quarterly, which is Unlocking Potential, Open the Door to New Talent Pools. We will have a link to different articles from that in the show notes. But there is a specific article from a gentleman, Jeffrey, and I'm going to slaughter this last name, Abramowitz. And what he learned about himself. And the reason I thought about this is because you mentioned the opioid epidemic, right? And how that has impacted so many people. Thank goodness there are legislatures in different states are starting to recognize this. I can't remember. I always want to say it's Maine, but I don't think it was Maine. It might have been like Rhode Island or one of those cool Northeast Coast states where their governor, just like a couple months ago, pardoned all of these people because of their marijuana history. And now that will be wiped, and the economic opportunity that is going to open up for their citizens. I am just so excited, so impressed. So I want to say, I just had to piggyback off of what you said and say, like, well done out there. Now it's our turn as HR, as companies, to do our part.
Well, and the reality is, as we talked about at the beginning, retention is getting harder and harder. It's definitely an employee market out there right now. So we have to start thinking outside the box to sources of candidates that we may not have thought about before. And some of the ones that we're talking about today require a little bit of a different approach because they may not be as mainstream as what we typically think of. So they may not have access to or know how to access the typical job postings we do or things like that. So we may need to change our recruiting tactics. So with that being said,
cast a wider net.
Yes, cast a wider net. So I want to talk about individuals with disabilities, or as I would encourage you to start thinking about this group as differently abled individuals. So that term disability is in our lexicon and it's going to stay there. But one of the things that I have found really interesting is that we have been operating under pretty much the medical model of disability, which is that a disability means there's something abnormal about the person, that there's something wrong with the person that needs to be fixed. And the expert is the doctor, and the fix is the cure, if there is one. And I think a better model is the social model, which is that it just means the person is differently abled and that it is actually society that is creating the obstacles. And the solution is to figure out how to help these individuals accomplish their goals and to enter the workforce or whatever it might be, and help them get rid of whatever those obstacles are that are preventing them from doing so. So it's not the person that's the problem, it's the environment that's the problem. And I think that really sort of turns the whole notion on its head. Unemployment rates for disabled individuals are vastly higher than they are for non-disabled individuals. But I want to give you some caution with that particular statement because it's somewhere around 80%. Don't quote me on that, but it's somewhere around 80% of disabilities are non-apparent, meaning that you likely either know someone with a disability or you are someone with a disability. So people with disabilities are everywhere, or people with differently abled bodies are everywhere. And oftentimes this is an overlooked population. SHRM research has found that disabled employees are often more dedicated than other employees and tend to stay with their employers for much longer. So if you sort of take that out of, I know there's a lot of fear around hiring somebody with a disability because you're worried they're going to get hurt, or you're worried they're not going to be able to keep up with the job, or all of the normal things that come into your head. Most of the time, there are ways to accommodate somebody that, number one, don't cost the organization any money or very little money, and two, allow that person to perform the essential functions of their position, which is the whole point of the ADA, is to help them do their job. So I would encourage you not to overlook this pool. And there are different organizations that you can reach out to. In most states, there is a Department of Health and Human Services, first of all, or oftentimes there's the Department of Developmental Disabilities or things like that. You can reach out to Jan, which Trisha's going to talk a little bit more about in a second, but Jan is the Job Accommodation Network. And they are an invaluable resource for when you are looking for accommodations for individuals who have a disability. The other thing that's really important is both in your application process and in your typical communications with your employees, you need to make it known that you comply with the ADA and that accommodations are available, because a lot of times employees don't know that they are available. And I know that we've talked about this in another episode, but disabled employees who feel comfortable enough to share their disability with their employer are more satisfied, more engaged, and more productive. So we want to make people feel as comfortable as possible. And again, if you frame it in the sense of they're just differently abled, then that changes the whole concept. Now it's not a problem to fix. It is trying to figure out how to make the best use of what this person's gifts are. Hey everyone, it's Jules from Wine with HR. As you know, I like wine. I don't always, however, like shopping for it. I don't know if you've had the same experience, but a lot of times I get into the store and I'm overwhelmed by all of the choices. And perhaps I don't know a lot about a particular type of wine, a particular grape. And so I look for the prettiest label or the label that catches my eye. Well, I'm here today to tell you that there is a better way to buy wine. Today's podcast is being brought to you by Last Bottle Wines. If you haven't yet heard about these folks, they're a Napa Valley-based online wine shop with a twist. They offer just one hand-picked wine per day until it sells out, often in hours, so you got to be on your toes. So, new day, new wine, always at incredible prices. We're talking 30 to 70% off retail. Last Bottle Wines tastes through hundreds of wines each month to find you only the best, most exciting bottles from all over the world. The best part? There's no subscriptions, no fees, no minimum purchase. Just a daily email with a really great wine that's sure to impress. I've already tried a couple, and let me tell you, their wines are delicious, and they're ones that I would never have found on my own. So I have already tried a Pinot Grigio from the Luna Vineyards that is delightfully light, crisp, little bit fruity, little bit citrusy. It would go really well with vegetarian dishes and probably some mild fish. And then I've also tried I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation of this one, but a Langhe from Le Chesche, which is an Italian vineyard. And it is a red wine from the Tuscan region, and it is delightfully fruity and a wonderful wine that would pair well with probably some meaty dishes. So, for all of our wine listeners, we are offering you 10% off your next order at Last Bottle Wines. Use the code WINE, that's WHINE 10, and make sure that you sign up at lastbottlewines.com and find out why Last Bottle is the most fun way to discover and buy amazing wine.
Do you love news about LinkedIn, Indeed, Google, and just about every other recruitment tech company out there?
Hell yeah. I'm Chad.
I'm Cheese.
We're the Chad and Cheese Podcast.
All the latest recruiting news and insights are on our show.
Dripping in snark and attitude.
Subscribe today wherever you listen to your podcasts.
We out.
So, Trish, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about our next group, which falls right into this, neurodivergent workers.
So I want to describe neurodivergent workers according to Jan, since Julie mentioned Jan. And yes, I cannot stress how helpful Jan is. So Job Accommodation Network. I love when I'm talking about Jan in some of my trainings and someone goes, who's Jan? No, not who, what? Job Accommodation Network. They describe neurodiversity. They say it's the way that people think, the way that they learn, how they perceive the world, how they interact, and how they process information. Now, neurodivergent workers do this in a little bit of a unique way from the rest of us. Doesn't mean that it isn't good or that it is bad or that it's weird. It just is different. And I will argue with a lot of you, just so you know, come try me on this. It actually can be a really cool, unique perspective. In our last episode, when we had Caleb on, we were talking about that idea of flipping something around and looking at it from a different way. And this is one of those times when I would really challenge you to do that. Because if we can help those who are considered neurodivergent, so let me give you an example of those with autism, ADHD, obsessive compulsive disorders, PTSD, a lot of other mental health conditions. If we can, and by the way, even those who have learning disabilities such as dyslexia. If we can then turn our way of thinking around and start looking at things differently, what we find is that, they're actually better at creating solutions. They're better at problem solving, and they're actually even more detail oriented than what we call neurotypical people. So, think about that. There's this whole group out there that can actually allow you to look at something different and maybe come up with this amazing, amazing way to approach a problem that the rest of us were going, never thought of that. How does that work? So pretty amazing. Now, how do you recruit from this pool? When you are thinking about trying to include someone who is neurodivergent, you want to have job postings that are very simple and clear. Don't give a bunch of extraneous information. Really just focus on the job requirements so that that individual says, yes, I can do that. Yes, I have that ability. I can do those things. Now, working with them once they're hired, I want to talk about that a little bit more with you. I will, as Julie has already said, when we think about accommodations, right? This is something that you may have to think about with some neurodivergent workers. You may have to step outside your comfort zone a little bit as well, because maybe it is someone who does a phenomenal job, but they do what is listed only in that work description that you gave them. Maybe they don't think outside the box. But what I will tell you is this is an awesome opportunity for you to work with them and challenge them and make this exciting for them. Because then you can say, okay, all right, so I have to list a few things like, okay, this is what you have to accomplish every day, or this is what your tasks are. But then you can leave some blanks at the end of that and say, now I would like you to think outside the box. I would like you to think about how you might approach this task or some things that you think you should include in your daily tasks, and watch the magic happen. I promise you, they will come up with things that you never thought of. When you are recruiting from this pool, by the way, there are places where you can do outreach for such groups, these neurodivergent groups, colleges, universities, vocational, sorry, I'm going back to my parents and my brother, right? I grew up in a family that works with those that have, and again, I love, Julie, the way you say it. Disability is it's such a dirty word, really. It should be differently abled. I love that. But I grew up with a family who worked with those who have mental disabilities or those who are developmentally differently abled. And what I know from that experience is that there are so many resources out there available to them, but there aren't a lot of people willing to give them a shot or willing to invest in some of these programs that promote diverse hiring. So I would highly recommend, if you are interested, if you're thinking, wow, yeah, we could use an injection of adrenaline into our system. We could use someone who is thinking about the going back to our rock, right? And twisting it differently and looking at it from a different perspective. Really try to figure out how you can be involved in some of these programs. I know that there are some considerations that you do need to think about. Those who are neurodivergent, they may fall under the ADA, kind of going back to what Julie was talking about before. And yes, they may require accommodations. So you need to be, as I just mentioned, aware of, hey, we may have to do this accommodation, or we may have to make sure our employees know that we're willing to do that. I think Julie hit the nail on the head. so many of these workers don't even know that they have this opportunity, or they don't think that employers are willing to work with them. And it's up to us to let them know that we will. When it comes to your managers, okay, first of all, send them to our manager boot camp. How many times do we have to tell you guys that, right? Send them to our manager boot camp. But they also really need to be trained on how to help neurodivergent individuals succeed. Again, it may help to have them adjust their management style. And so here's where I want to go into just a quick scenario. My brother recently had someone who was hired to work with him within his house. He works with developmentally disabled individuals. This person happens to be a neurodivergent individual. And my brother said he's one of the best employees he's ever had. However, there's no initiative. He does what you tell him to, but there's no initiative. There's no like, oh, I'm going to do this or this, and really engage with the individuals who live in this resident home. And so I said to him, hey, then let's you and I come up with an idea of how you can inspire and excite him to come up with some ideas that will challenge him, but also allow him to be excited and feel like he really is making a difference. And so that is what I would challenge each and every one of you to do. Yeah, it may take a little extra work. It may take, again, coming at it from a different perspective, but I challenge you all to do it because let me tell you, he has said, again, I cannot say this enough. My brother has said he's one of the best hires that they've ever had. He is just such a good person and really wants to legitimately help not only the residents succeed, but the business succeed as well.
Very cool. Yes. So again, that's sort of the point we're getting at here. These are untapped pools. They don't often get the same opportunities that everybody else gets. So when they do get the opportunity, they really make the best of it. So the next group that I want to talk about is veterans and spouses of military personnel. So
the spouses.
I know. So the veterans, I think we all sort of know that that's a great resource pool, but maybe we don't know how to reach them. But if it needs to be said, just as a reminder, veterans often bring innovation, flexibility, and problem-solving skills to the workplace. They've often experienced really challenging circumstances during their service, and they've had to think creatively how to solve problems. They've also learned how to be decisive because they got to figure it out in the moment, make a decision, and go with it. And so those are all really good.
Thank you, veterans.
Yes, thank you, veterans. Those are all really great qualities to have in leaders. So, if you aren't recruiting from veteran pools, you may want to do that. You can reach out to veteran groups in your area. There's all sorts of places that you can reach out to those veterans. But the one that surprised me out of the SHRM magazine, and again, we'll put the link in the show notes, was military spouses, because I'll admit I hadn't really thought of it before. But here's a crazy stat. According to the U.S. Department of Defense, military spouses, 92% of whom are women in their prime working years, experience an unemployment rate of 21%, which is very close to what disabled individuals experience. These are often well-educated individuals who have had to learn to be nimble and adaptable because they are constantly adjusting to new places, new neighborhoods, new school districts, new everything. And they've got to figure out how to get everybody acclimated. So they're great at multitasking. They're great at being adaptable. And that is, again, when I read that, I don't often get surprised by anything anymore. But when I read that, I was like, oh, dang, I never thought about that, And there's also some stories in the SHRM magazine about how oftentimes if a military spouse is applying for a job and they go in for the interview and they tell them that their spouse is in the military, they're excluded from the candidate pool because employers think, well, they're not going to be around for very long.
Yep.
And that brings up like a broader point that I know we've touched on in other episodes, but okay, the days of people working for an employer for 40 years and getting their gold watch and retiring are gone. They are gone. We need to let it go.
Yeah.
If you can get 3 to 5 years out of somebody, you're going to be lucky, number one. And I don't have any stats to back that up. That's just experience. If you get 3 to 5 years out of anybody, you're lucky. But if you get 3 to 5 years of really powerful experience and somebody who was a really great employee who did great things for you, then you really are lucky because you've gotten a lot from that candidate. And if you let them leave on good terms, so instead of saying, oh my God, they only stepped around for 3 years or 5 years or whatever, but you are like, oh, we are so grateful for what you have done for us. We want to stay in touch, whatever. You never know how that's going to come back to you. And it's likely going to come back to you tenfold. And I have seen that time and time again.
Yeah. And let's talk about the fact that, hey, have we not mentioned that there are these all these jobs out there that can be done remotely?
Right. Yes.
Hello. You hire this person, you love them, you figure out, okay, is it possible for this job to be remote? And if it is, boom, there you go. Forget the 3 to 5. It could be longer.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So Trish, what's your next group?
I have to go to the youth.
The youths. Only people our age are going to get that reference, but that's okay. My Cousin Benny. Look it up. Watch it. The Two Youths.
I love that movie. I love that movie so much. So obviously, we always want to encourage every young person to go to school, graduate, and do whatever they can. But for some people, unfortunately, that is not in the cards. So with our youth, ages 16 to 24, there are actually 5 million currently who are neither enrolled in school or in the workforce.
That's crazy.
I love how, I know, right? And SHRM calls them the opportunity youth. And I think this is great. Now, look, I am absolutely 100% opposed to child labor where, you know, we're talking about like putting people in dangerous situations or getting them out of school to work or anything like that. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about those people who just really are not in the school or they're not in the workforce. There are so many organizations out there. If you actually look, there are actually a lot of advocacy organizations out there that are going to work with you as an organization to help you recruit and employ young people. Now, guess what? Those organizations I'm talking about, they have a 96% favorable result rate. 96%. Let's talk about how you can take an opportunity or make an opportunity for someone and really change their life. This is your chance. We've mentioned a couple of times already, you know, maybe you have some jobs that are harder to fill. Maybe you have some jobs that you can't keep people in. These are your opportunities. These are the people that are saying, yeah, you know what? I don't have this opportunity to go to school, or I didn't have the opportunity to go to school. I'm aged out of the system and I still want to provide for my family, or I want to do something that's meaningful. People think that oh, no, those kids, they don't want to work. They don't want to do anything. And that is not true. Given the opportunity, given someone who actually believes in them, believes that they can succeed, and believes that they're going to make a difference, these kids are going to step up and blow you away.
Trisha was talking about the Utes. I'm going to talk about the old folk. And I mean no disrespect. I'm going to talk about retirees.
Hey, we're actually really close to that, Jules.
We're in the old folk age. So it's fine. So I'm talking about myself here. But retirees, this is also an untapped pool. There are a lot of retirees that, have retired from their career, whatever that might be, who find that they still want to do something. They still want some level of engagement with society. They want to feel like they're contributing. Maybe they need a little bit of extra income. Whatever the case may be, this is an untapped pool. And these people have all sorts of wisdom and life experience. For example, I hope that you have all watched the movie The Intern with Robert De Niro.
Oh, so good.
And Anne Hathaway.
Oh, so good.
He's a retiree and he's bored. He's a widow and he's bored and he gets a job and he just changes everybody around him because he's got all of this wisdom from all of his years in his career and his life experience. And that is something that we take for granted. You all have those people in your organizations who have that institutional knowledge that if they left, you would lose a lot. And oftentimes you don't realize it till they go. So, number one, take a look around and figure out who those people are and start tapping them for that institutional knowledge. But number two, if you have part-time positions, contract positions, consulting positions, retirees are a really good fit for a lot of those because, again, they already have the experience. They know how to work with people. They probably don't want full-time hours if they're truly retired, but they could fill a niche that you have. And so that's an untapped pool that you should really consider looking into. So, Trish, we've talked about a number of untapped pools, and some of them may seem a little bit scary to people, but it's just, again, differently able, differently thinking. We talk about diversity all the time in all the ways that are not the typical ways we think of, the ways that we think, the ways we communicate, the ways we problem solve, all of those. This is just a different element of diversity. And it gives you more resources and more opportunity, as we've used that word several times during this episode, to find people to fill those positions that you're having trouble filling and or retaining people. So what are your final thoughts?
I think I want to go with what you just said about diversity. I love that idea. For those of you that are out there that are struggling with this idea, maybe you've gotten some pushback on your diversity and inclusion efforts. This is a way to really approach it from a new perspective. I hate to say it's a new perspective because it really isn't. It always should have been there all along. But this is your opportunity to say, hey, we want to reach out and we want to cast, as I had said earlier, this wider net. We want to see the kind of people that we can bring to solve these problems that we've been facing for a long time, that those of us who maybe have the typical or traditional pathways as far as our careers go, like we can't cover them. And all of these groups that we've discussed today, I think they're going to be exactly what people need to, number one, fill those positions, but also number two, bring this really incredible new and fresh perspective to your organizations that are going to help you think again outside of the box and hopefully then succeed, which is after all the goal, right? We want people to feel welcomed. We want them to feel like they belong. And all of that is going to drive success for them and for us. So hopefully people enjoyed this and that they'll take the chance to read this SHRM Quarterly magazine. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm inspired.
Yeah, no, I think it's great because it really hopefully opens people's eyes to the other candidates that might be out there and also gets them to think about, as we are entering the fourth quarter of 2024 and leading into 2025, it gets people thinking about their recruiting strategy. So hopefully right now, this is a good time to put this in the forefront of their mind so that they can think about, all right, what is our recruiting strategy for next year? Maybe we should try to incorporate some of these groups for certain positions. So we encourage you to do that. We really thank you for joining us for this episode. We hope we inspired you to look to different groups than you normally would for your candidates. And we hope we inspired you to take a different perspective on who that ideal candidate is. And before we end, of course, we got to go back to the wine. So Trisha, how's that Chateau Saint Michel treating you?
Fabulous as always. Very, very delicious. I have to tell you, though, I'm ready to have it with some food.
Right? Amen.
Ready for dinner.
Yeah, ready for dinner. Yeah. My Excelsior is still lovely, but I'm with you. I'm ready for some grub. So
You're still munching on grass over there.
Yeah, still munching on grass, yes. So we are going to go have some dinner. We appreciate you joining us as you have put up with us for the last 2 seasons. And we truly, truly are grateful for all of you out there. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.
And follow us on social media.
Cheers.
Cheers.